Hey, how you doing? Today we're going to be ranking all the Slayer albums from the last to the first. Now, Slayer is a band from LA, California. They're in the Big Four, so that means they're in the top four most successful thrash bands of all time. Now, to start off our list, we're going to go with okay, let me first start with the members. Sorry, I just kind of screwed up there. Okay, the members were, because Slayer's no more. Jeff Hanneman, Kerry King on guitar, Tom Araya on vocals, and Dave Lombardo and Paul Bostaph on drums. They kind of alternated, but Dave was on the first 5 albums. Okay, now let's rank them. Okay, now let's do it. Okay. Now, at number 10 and number 11 is a tie. The last two were a tie, and they are between Diabolus in Musica and God Hates Us All. On these two releases, the guitar work wasn't very good. The lyrics and the beat were kind of new metal style, and especially in a song called "Payback," which basically describes how he wants to beat the crap out of somebody. You know, that sounds like something more Limp Bizkit would write than Slayer. Anyway, number 9 we have "Repentless." Now this one sounds a little bit better, but man, Tom Araya sounds so washed up here. He sounds like an old grandpa. The beat's a little better than the last 2 albums, but Araya sounds so washed up here. I guess that's because it was their last album, and by that time I think Tom knew it was time to retire. This one came out in 2015. Okay. At number 8 we have Christ Illusion. This came after God Hates Us All in 2006, which now here we started to sound more like what Slayer is supposed to sound like. Highlights include Fleshstorm, Jihad, and Cult. Now with Jihad, they talk about Muslim terrorists from the point of the enemy, and I found that to be kind of interesting. World Painted Blood at number 7 is kind of similar, but it continues in that trend. But the songwriting is better. The guitar work is so much crisper. It's almost like Slayer really got new life and started to sound fresh again. World Painted Blood came out in 2009. Now, number 6, which came out in 1994 and was the first to feature drummer Paul Bostaph, is Divine Intervention. Now, this is the first Slayer album I bought, and man, it's a banger. When I first heard it, I thought it was one of the best albums out there, until I heard their previous releases, but compared to their first 5 albums, the songwriting took a little bit of a dip, but it still sounds very aggressive, the way Slayer should, and Ditto Head and Mind Control have extra speed to them, so that's good. And Tom would sound like his new self. which pretty much would last throughout the remainder of Slayer's career. Now, number 5, we have, I forgot to mention, there's a song on Divine Intervention entitled 213, which was Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment number. And if you read the lyrics, you can see that they would apply to that. Okay. Number 5, we have Show No Mercy. This is Slayer's first album from way back in 1983. And if let's say you only heard Slayer's latest stuff, you would not know it was Slayer. It sounds more like Venom. The vocals are weird. The guitar at times has a new wave of British heavy metal feel to it. You know, kind of like Priest and Maiden, but you know, more aggressive riffing. And the lyrics are very satanic on this album, especially in songs like Black Magic, Die by the Sword, Evil Has No Boundaries, etc., etc., etc. Now the next album is South of Heaven. On South of Heaven, Slayer slowed down the tempo and went more into singing and to all-out thrashing, like they did on their previous 3 releases, which actually sounded pretty good. Slayer knew they had to make that change because they knew they could not top the previous album, Rain and Blood, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But yeah, South of Heaven is has some great songs on it, like the title track, Ghost of War, Spill the Blood, and some Mandatory Suicide, and some more. They could have left out that Judas Priest cover, Dissident Aggressor, because nothing will top that. Nothing will top the original. Anyway, at number 3 we have Rain and Blood, which is by far Slayer's most popular album. It came out in 1986, lasts only 28 minutes, and just blazes right along from the opener, Angel of Death, until Raining Blood. The thrash is almost top notch. The only issue I have is that aside from Angel of Death and Raining Blood, the songs are only 2 minutes long. But other than that, it's great. Some folks will even say this is the greatest metal album of all time. But to me, it's far from that. But it is really something. Probably one of the fastest albums to come out in 1986. Now, number 2, we have 1990's Seasons in the Abyss. Now, this one kind of combined the relative slowness of South of Heaven and the super intensity of Rain and Blood to make a mixture. Slower songs like Blood Red and Dead Skin Mask feature more the South of Heaven side, while like War Ensemble, Spirit in Black, Hollow Point feature more the Rain and Blood side. Plus the title track, Seasons in the Abyss, sounded more like the South of Heaven side. But them combining the two worked out perfectly, and is number 2 on this list. But number 1 is Hell Awaits. This is Slayer's most ominous sounding album. This should be a blueprint for thrash. Never before has Tom sounded so demonic and brutal. voice there is so suitable for thrash, it's ridiculous. And the songs are very fast but have tempo changes, like they'll go really fast and they'll slow down, particularly in songs like At Dawn They Sleep, Necrophiliac, and Crypts of Eternity. So Hell Awaits is my second favorite thrash album next to Megadeth's Rest in Peace. Now there's a couple. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me bring up the scores, okay? Diabolus and Musica and God Hates Us All are 11 out of 30. Average for a regular band, but piss poor for Slayer. Repentless gets a 15 out of 30. Christ Illusion gets a 19 out of 30. World Painted Blood gets a 21 out of 30. Divine Intervention gets a 22 out of 30. Show No Mercy gets a 25 out of 30. Along with South of Heaven, that gets 25 out of 32. 25 out of 30 as well, not out of 32. Rain and Blood gets 26 out of 30. Seasons gets 27 out of 30. And Hell Awaits gets a very superior 29 out of 30. Before I end the video, I want to say a few things. First of all, I really admire Kerry King as a guitarist, but sometimes he says things I don't like when he said about his bandmate when Jeff Hanneman died in 2013, that Jeff was worm food and there was no spiritual presence whatsoever. I found that disrespectful, because I've had many spiritual and psychic encounters, which I may discuss in another video, but yeah, I didn't like that at all. And as far as making the album Repentless, making an album and replacing Jeff with Gary Holt, I don't know. I hope that was a tribute to Jeff Hanneman and not just a cash grab, but I don't know, Slayer never revealed that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care of you guys, and remember Slayer with good memories. Okay, bye.